Greetings. In this video, we'll be understanding how to interview for writing cases. You might like to interview an executive, you might like to interview a professional, you might like to interview a CEO for writing a case. But before we start the interview, there are certain important points that we need to take care of. For example, the first point that you see here is extremely important. That you have to make sure that you approach the right person. So, identifying the person who can actually give you information that you require. So, the person has to be an information rich case. That means if you are looking for a strategy case, only a top management individual should be considered appropriate for the interview. Whereas if you are looking for a middle management kind of a case wherein a lot of orders have to be taken and orders have to be given, in such a scenario, middle level managers would be the best option. Whereas if you want to know the whereabouts of day to day activities on the floor, then in such cases, bottom level employees would be the best. The second point, as you see here, is fix an appointment for the interview. Now, this is very important that you fix an appointment for the interview and tell the exact length of the interview. Now, why it is important is that there should not be any disturbance in between. So, you should ideally have an interview between 40 to 45 minutes if it is with the protagonist himself or herself. Now, this appointment, where do you get to interview, is also important. So, the location has a lot of value. So, if it is about the organization and the dark side of some concept, it is better not to interview the person in the organization itself. Similarly, choose a place which is quite silent, not noisy. Third point is explain in detail the objective of the interview and the information that you seek from the interviewee. Now, remember here, you might have already sent an email for fixing an appointment with objective, etc. However, you have to reiterate the objective when you are about to start the interview. It is important because sometimes the executive or the interview might forget what the objective of it was. Mention what will happen to the interview and its content afterwards. So once you complete your interview, what exactly will you do with that recording? Will you be sharing with somebody? Will you be sharing with everyone on social media? Or will it be destroyed after taking the transcription? The fourth point is prepare well on the core questions and possible cross questions. So, this is important because during the appointment, you get a hint as to what kind of company it is, what is the background of the person, and you can always prepare for important questions relating to that person and organization. So you have to be mindful of the industry the person is coming from, kind of background the person has, so that you can avoid awkward moments. The fifth point is ensure that the recorder is ready for an audio or video. Of course, you'll have to take an informed consent from the interviewee whether an audio can be taken or a video can be taken. After all, video is preferred, but in case interview is not very comfortable with the video, then you may go for an audio. Now here, Make sure that the mic is very effective, it's of good quality, because many a times it happens that if the audio quality is not good, the transcription will not be good. It has to be in English so that transcription will be easy. And if possible, keep two mics, because in case one mic stops functioning, the other one will get it. Sixth one, the last one is wear business formals for the interview. So before you actually start the interview, make sure that you are present there in business formals, even if there is no video recording happening. If there is a video recording, make sure that both interviewee and interviewer are in the video. In such case, you might like to keep another device near the interviewee so that the audio is clear. Now, during the interview, make sure that you have a kind gesture of gratitude towards the interviewee for giving the valuable time, and open with the ice breaking question. Do not jump directly into the core questions. So, you may like to ask, though you have already researched about the background of the person, you might like to ask about the background of the person. This is the safest bet. The core questions have to be well prepared in advance. However, you should not be preparing for probing questions, because many a times it happens that the interviewees will say something out of the blue. So it might not be in order or something like that. So you have to be ready with core questions and probing questions whenever and wherever required. You have to ask. So when we say probing questions, we mean the questions that will give you more clarity on what the interviewee wanted to say. Also, if you want more depth, for these two reasons, probing questions are asked. The next one is closing questions. Closing questions, of course, have to be very light, like opening question. Closing questions generally involve, do you want to say something else that might benefit this case? Or would you like to receive a copy of the case? Or would you like to receive transcript of the case? Now end with the gesture of gratitude again. Thank the interviewee well for the person's time and efforts. Now post-interview is mainly about telling the interviewee what you will exactly do with that recording. Check if other concerned stakeholders can also be briefly interviewed later at some point of time once the transcription and summary of this interview is ready. Check if the company would be okay in providing the no objection certificate, or what we call signing off. So you'll have to share the case with the company, and the company will say that they do not have any objection in the case. Do the transcription of the recording. Now this can be done very easily in MS 365 online. You can just open a Word file, upload the audio or video, and say transcript. It will allow the transcript. Now ask the interviewee for any sensitive information that he or she wants to remove or disguise. Now this is particularly important because during important conversation, what happens is that the interviewee might forget that the information is a bit sensitive and should be disguised or removed. So in the end, it's always good to ask whether there is a sensitive information that needs to be deleted. Identify the key employee issues faced by the company. Now this is the core objective in an OB and HR case. What were the employee issues, group issues, or human resources issues that the company is currently facing or has recently faced? And the way you ask is a bit different. instead of asking what are the problems that you are facing in the employee domain, it's always good to ask what are the challenges that you have in managing employees. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced in recent past relating to employees, and how did you overcome in case it has already been overcome? The last point is how can theory in organizational behavior help in analyzing that employee problem? This comes from literature. So you have to link which particular theory from the literature of organizational behavior can actually answer the problem. You can also go through the two videos, that is how to critical review and also the Picardy framework, how to read the case in order to understand your problem and how to solve that problem effectively. The links of those videos will be in the description box. There are certain tips that you can follow. Always reach the venue or enter MS Teams a few minutes before time. It's always good because it shows that you consider this interview very important. Also, it will give you some time to relax and be comfortable in your place. Make sure that the voice is clearly heard, because if the mic is not of good quality, the transcription will be really bad. Also, do not forget to check with the interview before starting recording. So, yes, you might have already told the interviewee that you will be recording the interview. Yet, the moment you are about to start, you should tell very clearly that you are starting the recording. This makes the person conscious and vigilant of something getting recorded. Do not disturb the interview in between, do not interrupt. Even if he or she is going off the topic, it is okay. You have to listen to the person very carefully and patiently. And once they are done, then you should ask for your core questions or probing questions. Now, when you ask these probing questions or core questions, remember you can always ask, and you should rather ask, the actual incidents that can represent the problem or the issue that the interview is talking about. Because if the interview is speaking in general, what has happened with somebody in some other organization, it will not help. So it has to be very specific incident and how that incident developed or evolved over a period of time. Of course, ask probing questions to gain clarity and depth. You might also like to give a heads up before the interview to the interviewee. What are your core questions? Quickly write notes immediately after the interview is over. So, this is an important tip because you have to reflect back, and the reflection will get weaker as the time between the interview and the writing is increased. So, it's always good to immediately write down the important points. You might also like to write important points during the interview. However, I would suggest in such scenarios, you might like to have an assistant who will record the interview so that the person is vigilant that the recording is going on fine. And that's it. Thank you.